Okay, I don't remember where we left off, but we'll start at 87. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Śrī Nanda uvāca. This is text, book 1, chapter 6, text 87. Śrī Nanda uvāca dravyāṇy ādau prema-cihnāni putra etāny atra prāhiṇot satya-vākyaḥ śīghraṁ paścād āgamiṣyaty avaśyaṁ tatratyaṁ sva-prastutārthaṁ samāpya. Śrī Nanda said, our son is an honest person who always speaks the truth. He has first sent us these three things as token of his love. He is sure to come back to us quickly as soon as he finishes what he has done in Mathurā. Purport: for Nanda, Krishna will always be his son, regardless of Vasudev's claim, and Nanda believes that his son is honest. Krishna sent the gifts not as a calculated attempt to manipulate the sentiments of the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta, but simply out of love. As Krishna promised, he is certainly to return. He has been delaying in Mathurā so long because of the many obligations he has to fulfill there, like removing the threat of Jarasan. These will take a little more time to complete, and he will come back home to Braja. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Taksur Unmalatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam Pancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I'm kind of swimming here in an ocean of rasa vaisaha. The ultimate reality is this expression of the most intense love, which is harmonious because there's a center for that love, which everyone in the ultimate reality agrees upon. And the Bhagavatam describes that love. Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta rasa alayam, imploring us to drink this rasa, which is composed of rasa. And the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta is a summary of that description given of the ultimate reality in the Bhagavatam, but condensed, the same message, but condensed in a different form, a different story. It is a storyline. I've learned this from studying the Bhagavatam. There's a storyline and there's a philosophical line, a rasic line. There's a story to express rasa and philosophy. So that rasa and philosophy, it can be expressed in different ways, just like you express something in one language and another language and another language and another language. They're saying the same thing. So the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta is saying the same thing. but it really focuses from the beginning and lets you know what is the objective. As Prabhupada said, it's the rasa dance, it's the highest love, it's the smiling, which is the smiling face of Krishna. So at the beginning, if I can bring us up to this thing without repeating again, at the beginning, it lets it know that this story is about seeking the topmost level of Krishna's mercy. Who has that? And to get that is the Bhagavatam. To get that is the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Samāpya tam unatoj rasam swa-bhakti swayam. Lord Chaitanya is giving his own bhakti. But what is his own bhakti? It's those feelings. So in that story, it's Narad searching for it. And we're coming, at least in the first book, to the culmination of it, where he searches for Uddhava, who humbly denies that he's that object of love of the topmost, because there's someone greater and he's seen in the gopis. And then there's this interesting discussion, and this is where I get lost, and we'll have to go back and read the verses again like we did last time. In this discussion, a argument ensues, but there's different types of arguments. There's aggressive arguments, and there's arguments where you're trying to both establish the truth. So this argument ensues between, after Uddhava says that they're the topmost recipients of Krishna's mercy, from Rohini and Balaram, who've seen Krishna suffer so much. And then there's the question, is that degree of suffering that they have, which is an expression of love, is that the highest mercy? Or is it not, because there's so much intense, anguish? And I've actually seen devotees who I feel really have Krishna's mercy suffering in separation. Is that mercy or not? I remember one time Ayendra Prabhu came to my room in total anguish that he hasn't realized his relationship with Krishna. And he was suffering for it. So did he have mercy? He had mercy because he had love. And in the ultimate platform, that love is beyond duality, whether it's expressed in meeting or separation, whether it's expressed in the emotions of agitation and anxiety or jubilation and whatever. But anyway, that discussion, it goes, and Devaki and Satyabhama, they're saying the expression of love because they're looking at Krishna's heart and they see how much he is, their own husband is so much absorbed in the gopis. So there's this very interesting discussion, the resolution of which is the aim of this book, for us to understand the highest reality in forms like eroticism and despondency, which we'll see in the separation of Śrī Radha and the gopis, that we can understand what that highest objective is and understand why it's the highest objective and aspire to it, and not misunderstand it as something mundane or mundane or fantasy. And it's so beautiful because this point is just approached from every way. But you'll see, Rasa Vaisaha, you'll see whether they say that they're suffering so much, or they're saying that Krishna's the queens are attesting to Krishna's love for them. We'll see it in just different angles, that this essence of intensified love, which is the highest reality, which is the highest reality. So let me just go back some verses and let's see. I'm going to go, because it's just so nice. It doesn't matter. I'm going to go right back many, many verses and just read it like a story again and then come up to where we are. And maybe that's what we'll have to do here. So I just... Okay, so we're going to begin again where this argument is ensuing. In Balaram, in a transcendental way, it's saying, why hasn't Krishna come back? Then there's cast dispersion on his character. If he has the highest love, why are they not coming back? Why is he not coming back? Śrī said, hearing this, the personality of God, who is ruled by the love of those dear to him, suddenly got up from his bed and came outside loudly weeping. So just focus on the love, the status of the gopis in each particular person. And of course, Krishna, everyone was outside of his terrace. We discussed this many times. They're sitting outside there, Balaram and Rohini and Uddhava and Satyabhama and Rukmini. They're all sitting out there because it's a little bit discerning. Not discerning. It's a little bit disturbing that Krishna hasn't got up from bed. And somehow Krishna's in anguish. And that anguish is for the suffering of the Bṛhad-bhāsis, which is hard to understand because he never goes back. Well, he doesn't go back. From his fully blossoming lotus eyes rained a flood of tears. With a choking voice, tormented by compassion for others, he spoke as follows. Yes, it is true. My heart is made of solid diamond. It must be so because it is not yet split in half. Thinking of the suffering of the gopis. Those devotees who took care of me for so long, from the very beginning of my childhood, and still I have forgotten about their exceptional love. And you know, the Sanskrit words, I don't know Sanskrit, I know some of the vocabulary and words, but especially, it's always just adds an extra sweetness. Sadharanam is normal. Asadharanam is exceptional. Asadharanam prema, of their exceptional love. But that as it may, I must somehow do something to help them. I've indeed been cruel to have caused those gentle souls such extreme grief. Atyantam, extreme. Dukkam, grief. To those midu atman, these gentle souls, I've caused so much grief by not coming back. And why is it grief? Because they love him and they want him. And whenever your attachments are not fulfilled, it's anxiety. And we should have a little bit of that anxiety because we should want to be with Krishna. Lord Chaitanya had that anxiety. If I was a devotee, I would die because I'm separate from Krishna. So we should have some anxiety. It's proper in spiritual life from the very beginning. In the Pancha Samskar, the 5 samskars for initiation, the first one is tapa. I regret separation from Krishna. And we should regret separation from Krishna. I regret my life that I lived antithetical to devotional service. And now I regret my life that I'm not with Krishna. O brother Uddhava, you must know everything, and you're the best of my dear friends. Please tell me at once, what should I do? Please lift me from this ocean of distress. So Uddhava is the mantri, he's the advisor, he's very expert. And that's the beauty of Krishna. We were discussing that yesterday here in, what do we call this, Jack?
Nava-nilachala.
Nava-nilachala Dham, where I stay. Jack got these. No one has seen Panchatattva deities as beautiful as this. If anyone is interested, we know where you can get them. From very super honest, advanced devotee. Never seen forms like this. Jack, it's perfect, right? There's nothing you can. They're made of what kind of metal? Astadhatu, 8 metals.
I think it's 5 metals.
5 metals. They're made of different metals. They're painted so exquisitely in different colors. And we had the welcome ceremony, very beautifully done. Okay. But when I went to pour the yogurt for the abhishek, it was ice cold. And then I thought of the Bhakti Sandarbha. It said that if you have love for Krishna and you don't eat him, then he'll starve. And in the winter, you don't bathe him in cold water because he'll get sick, and he will. That's the whole story of Jagannath. And how wonderful is our Supreme Lord that he develops needs according to our desires so we can serve him. It's not, he can eat the whole world. He's God. He can eat, what does he need? The food. But no, if you love him, he'll be hungry and therefore be satisfied when you feed him. Remind me, Jack, this could be, I have to write the Wednesday wisdom, this point, okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's because an interesting point.
Yeah.
So, Parikshit said Devaki was loving to her son and was a dear friend to Nanda's wife. She said, you should give your best well wishes, whatever they want. So he asked Uddhava, what can I do? What do I want? How do I satisfy them? And now the loving devotees in Dwarka, they're worried that you'll go back. So they're saying, just pay him off. Just pay him off. And then fearing that the kingdom was about to be given away, old Padmavati, the Lord's grandmother, the queen of Yadu, King Ugrasena, gathered her muddled wits and cleverly feigned a joking spirit to protect her husband's domain. Because she's afraid, well, Devaki said, just give them what they want, anything, but not you. That's love. Love is the object of your love is more valuable than anything in the world. And unfortunately, in the world, you see these tragedies where people lose children or loved ones or something. They would pay anything in the world to get that person, because the ultimate pleasure is love and relationship. That's how the world works. And therefore, the most wealthy people in the world, you can see, they don't have love, they're not satisfied. And a lot of times, they lack it. Because when you're very wealthy and you have a lot of money, and especially when you're not in the world of spirituality and the people that are with you also have those desires, then whatever they express to you, there's always a doubt that they're doing it not because they want to please me, because they want something from me. So a lot of times very wealthy people are very lonely. They're very lonely because they never know and experience love. So But those people, because that's what happiness is. We learn that because the essence of the Hladini Shakti is Krishna Prem. It's love of God. That's the essence of pleasure. And that universal love is reflected here in a very limited way. It can never be as satisfying as that love, which is a love here is a mental conception, and love there is an ontological reality. It's an energy. It's the real love. Parvati say, Krishna, why should you lament? Just listen to my advice. And then she says, my husband will repay Nanda twice over. Yeah. But Padmavati, no one ever listens to her. Pariksha said, although the personality of Godhead must have heard these words, he pretended he had not. Driven by sorrow, he then inquired from Uddhava as though ignorant. O best of learned scholars, you know all the thoughts of the residents of Vraja. Please tell me without delay, what is they desire? So it's difficult, because if Krishna makes the decision to go back home and see the gopis, then all the people in Dwarka will be upset. So he's saying, sometimes you ask someone else make the decision, then it's not your fault, because then they become the agent. If you surrender to someone to follow them, then therefore they become the agent, the doer, and the responsibility goes to them. That's why a devotee becomes free from karma. Because if he does things according to Shastra, according to Krishna's pleasure, he's not the agent. The agent gets the karma. Even like a child, if he steals flowers, or the parent says, go get flowers from across the street, the neighbors won't be angry with the child, they'll be angry with the parent if they stole from their garden. So this agency, and I think even in law, in courts, they try to find agency. So if someone is mentally ill, is he seriously mentally ill and not cognizant of what he's doing, then he won't be held responsible to crime. They'll put him in a mental institution, even if it's murder. So you always determine who is the doer, and then becoming an accomplice. Maybe you were forced to do it, whatever case it is. So there's different things. Sri Parikshit said, having heard these words from the Lord, the despondent Uddhava was taken aback. He sighed briefly and then answered full of remorse. So again, now what is Uddhava thinking? Oh my God, this is going to kill the residents of Vrindavan. Tell me what to do. He's thinking, he's telling me what to do in terms of that discussion of give something to pacify them. And he's already had this whole experience, and he's going to explain it now, which will reveal the gopis' love, how much this didn't work the last time, and how much Uddhava said, the people don't want from you the power and wealth of emperors, nor the enjoyments found in heaven, nor anything else obtainable in the world and the next. They desire nothing else but you. Kindly favor me with your attention, think over what I'm about to say, and then act as you see fit. So he's the mind. Because there was a conflict between two brothers, the younger brother and the older brother. So they brought in the other brothers, so all the brothers were there. And so all the younger brothers, they somehow agreed with the younger brother. The older brother said, I'll do what I want. Because he's the authority. So you can ask advice, but ultimately, you can take the advice, but ultimately, he says, think what you say and then do it fit. Before, when the cowherds met Nanda and saw the jewels and other gifts you had sent them, they spoke with one another, all of them immersed in an ocean of grief. I said, what is this? We went over this before. It says like, we'll just send us some trinkets. This doesn't work. Oh, how very painful. Krishna now thinks we want such presents from him and deserve this kind of mercy. Therefore, damn our lives and the breath that still moves in our hearts. And damn Nanda and the cowherd boys. They should have left these things behind and instead brought Krishna, such strong emotion. But what's the basis of that emotion? This ultimate reality, Krishna, the all-attractive, and that energy, the antalat, that existential energy of love for Krishna. Rasa Vaisa, how the whole world works. There's a center, and there's love for that center, and everyone enjoys that ultimate reality. So it's drama that always heightens the love. And we should want to be there one day and leave this damn crazy world. Dukalayam avashashvatam. It's temporary and full of suffering. But somehow we think, as Tamal Krishnamurti told me, in the future it'll get better, but it only gets worse. It's somehow we have that psychology. It's going to be better. Thus, the residents of Vraja, including Mother Yasodha, gave up all hope of return. Already dead, they refused to eat at all. Nanda felt like someone who committed a great offense. For 3 days, he was so utterly miserable he couldn't say a thing. But then to save the lives of the residents of Vraja, he induced these people to believe your departing words. With many ardent promises, Nanda used skillful logic to prove your words true. In this way, that he'll come back. Okay, and now we're up to today's verse. Okay, great. Okay. Śrī Nanda said, our son is such an honest person who always speaks the truth. He has first sent us these things as token of his love. He is sure to come back quickly as soon as he finishes what he has to do in Mathurā. The residents of Vraja, all simple-hearted people, trusted Nanda's words, thinking about your loving affection. They accepted the jewelry and put it on their bodies. So this is Uddhava speaking, trying to say this is not going to work again. They thought when Sri Krishna returns, he will see how we have followed his order. By accepting these remnants of his enjoyment, then he will show us special mercy. But you never came. You sent me instead, and when they heard the message you had sent with me, they almost died from disappointment. They almost died from disappointment. Yeah, Krishna gave them a message, and philosophically, it's absolutely true. But as you can learn as a preacher, that emotional problems are not solved philosophically generally if they're strong. So he told him, you should be satisfied in my bhava manifestation. And this is actually a fact, that we're separated from God by consciousness, not by distance, because he's everywhere, and he can appear anywhere. From God has inconceivable potency. So he's not, temporospatial. He's not restricted by our time and space. So he's everywhere, but he's personally everywhere to reciprocate with the devotee's devotion. So it's not pantastu koti satya-vākyaḥ sampagam yo vayor atapi manaso. It's not by the speed of mind. You can't, but going by the speed of mind, you can't approach even the particle of dust, because that's not where the spiritual world is. It's not if you just go by it's another dimension. It's another dimension. I was just having a discussion with someone yesterday. I met at Rath Yatra. I hadn't seen him in many, many years. And he wanted to share to me his thoughts. And, it was on the fifth canto and the universe. So, yeah. Yeah, it's from God's perspective and our perspective, there's different things. So we want to see the world from our perspective, but from God's perspective, it's a little different. So how to communicate that to us? Anyway, I'm not an expert at these things, but it was kind of the same point. Seeing them so dependent, I made every effort to keep them alive by promising you would surely come back. Then I returned here. To attain you, these devotees then renounced all enjoyment of the senses and all material shelter. Please ask your elder brother what state they're in. Because he says, okay, now Balaram went back. Sri Parikshit continued. So now you have this other rasa. Maharaj Parikshit, just imagine the consciousness this is spoken in. Maharaj Parikshit, this is his last day of his life. And he's just heard the Bhagavatam. Mathurā, out of affection for his mother, who was a great devotee of the Lord, he's now telling the story of the Bhagavatam. So he's just immersed in this story, and his mother's listening to this. And they're feeling it. From the dread of the great pain and separation from Krishna, the faces of the ladies like Devaki and Rukmini were pale, downcast, and full of tears. Looking at those women affectionately, gentle-hearted Krishna quickly gestured for an inkpot and paper. So Krishna is so disturbed that he asked for some paper. And he's going to write something. Krishna meant to strengthen the faith of his devotees by sending them a letter filled with loving sentiments and written by his own hand. My dear friends, please know that as soon as I settle my duties before me and satisfy my relatives, I will return. In no time, I will be there. Uddhava surmised what Krishna was about to do, and they're greatly distressed. So now you see the Vaishnava, he loves Krishna, but he also loves Krishna's devotees. And he feels for their suffering. That's the whole basis of love, is that your emotional state is linked to the emotional state and happiness of those who you will love. And that's what a compassionate person is. Para dukkha dukhi. He doesn't suffer, he suffers for others. So imagine how Uddhava felt when he's just a thought, oh my God, another letter. We tried that once. Knowing the inner hearts of the Brijvasis, he cried and begged Krishna to reconsider his plan. Srimad Uddhava said, "O Master, please turn your attention to this. Unless your 2 lotus feet make a blessed journey to Vraj, there is no way to assure that your people of Vraj will survive. These people want nothing but your lotus feet." So trying to give us a sense of, if there is a love, if love is actually an ultimate reality, then what is that condition of the perfect love, which is God's love, which he wants us to share in? What an inconceivable emotion that has, and how that's churned by the feelings of separation. Purport: a mere letter will not save the Vrajavasis from destruction. They do not want a letter from Krishna, they want Krishna himself. Asya jivad vraja. Vraja belongs to Krishna alone. The devotees living in Vraja recognize as worshipable only Krishna, not the super soul or any other form of God. But the actual fact is, Krishna is there in their separation, because he's there in his bhava. What Krishna said is true. But it doesn't mean that they won't be feeling that separation. See picture uvāca. Picture said, the befuddled mother of Kamsa laughed at this, shook her head, and burst out, "Aha! Aha! Foolish Devaki, now I understand everything. With the help of your Uddhava, whom the cowherds have long controlled, by gifts of milk goods, those cowherds want to bring Krishna back to the forest. In that dangerous forest, hard to travel and full of thorns and vicious beasts, those good-for-nothings want to make him tend the cows." So again, her thoughts against the Brijvasis, that they're just exploiting Krishna, brings out actually in response how much Krishna loves them. Balaram's mother Rohini, Yasoda's dear friend, couldn't tolerate to hear these insults. Angrily she replied, and what's that anger? How much she reveres the Brijavasis. Sri Rohini said, "Indeed, dear mother of Kamsa, will they just engage him in caring for cows? Unless the devotees there see him, they can't be alive for a single moment. They don't want Krishna to exploit Krishna. They want Krishna because they love Krishna and they want to serve Krishna. They don't want to exploit Krishna. They're just facilitating. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmani Hitaya Chajigaritaya Krishna Govindaya." He's so dear, the cows, to Krishna. O virtuous lady, this is one of my favorite parts. If Krishna or other obstacles, so this is Rohini telling Pati what Krishna's consciousness is like. If the Brijvasis, if trees or other obstacles block Krishna from sight, even briefly, his companions at once shed tears and call in anxious, drawn-out voices, "Sri Krishna, Sri Krishna." So I give an example. If that's the tree, and I'm the, no, put it this way, and if I'm the if I'm the cowherd boys, then when Krishna goes behind the tree and the cowherd boys can't see him, it's Krishna, 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 Krishna. So they're in the forest, they're playing with Krishna, they're enjoying with Krishna, and then they look and he just goes behind a tree. And their sight, the amount of love that excites, the pleasure they get from serving Krishna and seeing Krishna. The object of their love is so intense that if he just disappears for a minute, in your absence, a moment is like 12 years. For those who live in Bṛhad, daytime is like the black night, and at the end of the universe, and the blink of an eye, a millennium, in such a state, they look at the sun and the trails of dust on the road again and again, and listen for the sound of the flute. Why is the daytime like night? Because Krishna goes during the daytime to the forest. And then they just look at the sun and they look at the trails again and again. They listen for the flute. They're so... Every day, Krishna takes his older brother with him and goes out onto various forests, eager to enjoy with his herds of cows and wander about in the company of his friend. Vrindavan is such that every day there's a new forest. Every day there's a new forest for Krishna to enjoy and to explore. Purport. Vrajadham has many attractive features in which Krishna loves to play with his friends. His favorite among those forests is Vrindavan. The forest is Śrī Vrindadevi, the original ruler of Vraja. Every day Krishna is eager to go out onto the forest where he enjoys ever-fresh pastimes. The daily adventures of Krishna, Balaram, and their friends are an endless festival of wonderful sights and surprises. Apurvatam. Apurvatam means purva, previous, never previous. So every experience is never previous or unprecedented. Every time they see Krishna, it's like never before. In those forests are lakes with sparkling water, where Kamala and Utpala lotuses spread their fragrance. The lotuses tremble from the movements of swarms of bees stirred up by rows of excited water birds. So now it's just a description of Vrindavan, which is the land of love. I always quote from I think it's the 15th chapter of the Bhagavatam. When Krishna comes in, the wind is described as Vayuna Jushtam, that the wind so serves Krishna. It's not just blowing, it's loving. It has intention. So the things in the spiritual world, they have intention. The flowers bloom, and Krishna picks each flower. Okay, Jamunajaya, you can go first. Just get us going here. Oh wait, that's right, she told me. Jamunajaya has a very nice kind of job. She's a professional clown for children. And I guess they sometimes fly her around the world to spread her light and joy, not just to us, actually. So now she's in South America. She told me beforehand she may not be there. Okay, Gail, do you have a question?
Hi, Krishna Maharaj. Yeah, it's just one thing. Remember when you said that over here, love is a mental conception, but over there, the spiritual world is an ontological reality. So can you just expand on what you mean when you say over here it's just a mental conception?
Well, you know, that's interesting because you remember Jai Jagannath gave this class one time at the Bhakti immersion, there's no love in the material world, and I argued against him. And then Mother Rukmini was there also and supported me. But obviously, love of Godhead is an energy of God, an energy of Krishna that's put into one's heart that energizes our natural love to serve Krishna to the highest degree. And love here has to do with our karma and our bodies and the bodies of other people, and it's temporary. So it's not eternal.
Because we're just basically loving each other's subtle.
Well, it's not, nasate vidyate bhavo, and the bhavo vidyate sataha. That which is temporary doesn't exist. That's what it says in Gita. And that which is eternal is, what's it? It's Gita, what is that? Nasate vidyate bhavo. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's selfless. It can reflect our love for God. I don't want to diss it, but it's somehow different. Yeah. I forgot what I made that point in relationship to. Do you remember?
Not really.
Okay. I made it up and now I have to defend it. But usually this stuff is connected to things. Yeah. I wrote a Monday morning greetings. Is there love in the material world? Well, I discussed this extensively. I'm just curious. I'm just curious. Let me see if for a second I can find that. It's an interesting essay.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Because even if we love each other's personalities, the personalities are material, and therefore that love is temporary.
Okay, if anybody wants to look at the essay, it's April 21st, 2017. Is there love in the material world? When attending a lecture, I was skeptical of the apparent conclusions of the class that the only true love is bhakti, love for Godhead, and consequently, there is unequivocally no love in the material world. I respectfully raised the question and a discussion ensued. For argument's sake, even if we accept that bhakti is only for Krishna, isn't there a danger in the application of that principle? There are studies done that show that people who adhere to movements promoting such transcendence are in general less empathetic than those who do not. Although granted, according to the same studies, 20% who deeply understand the tenets of the teachings are much more empathetic. Whether the study is accurate or not, doesn't such preaching pose a danger of being misunderstood and making us more hard-hearted? An intense discussion followed the morning class by Jai Jagannath, and the discussion continued throughout the second day of our Bhakti Immersion Retreat. His class was excellent and his points reasonably well argued, as there was the pushback to his class. The exchange is worth reproducing here in the form of a summary of Jai Jagannath's basic view, the pushback or opposing view, and what I think is the correct view, which is a kind of synthesis. A summary of Jai's view. Jai's class was based on a verse from the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, where Krishna explains that it is only in relationship with the self that anything becomes dear, and thus there can be nothing dearer than the self. He gave many good examples to support this principle, like how things are treasured or loved only because we perceive they belong to us, not in and of themselves, and how even love of family and sacrifice for country is only extending our concept of the self behind ourselves to others. In other words, As long as love is based on the body, there is at least some element of ego involved, antithetical to pure love, and thus love in this world is suspect. I cannot do justice to his presentation in such a short summary, but even those who disagreed with his conclusion or wanted to modify it appreciated the insight, logic, and Shastric references that he offered in support of his view. Continuing his argument, he then referenced a verse from the same chapter where Krishna stated that those who understand their real self-interest render unalloyed devotion to him because he is Atma-priya, most dear to the soul. In other words, as we love or hold things dear because they belong to us, and thus our self or soul is dearer than our body and its possessions, similarly, Krishna, who is the soul of the soul, is the most dear object of devotion. Prabhupada emphatically concurs in his purport, Lord Krishna's Atma-priya, the real object of love for everyone. Sri Jagannath's main objective, which he clarified later, was that the term bhakti has basically been bastardized in the New Age and yoga communities to include every sentiment of affection as bhakti, that unless we understand that the true object of bhakti is God, we will be mired in a falsely exclusive sense of love. We then never experience real bhakti until we finally transcend or become frustrated with the mundane. His talk was thus entitled Love, Lust, Loss, and Beatitude. Beatitude meaning the state of utmost bliss. The opposing view. Okay, I think we want to hear the opposing view. There seems to be some problem with the view that bhakti is only for God and no one else in this world. For this view inevitably limits our conception and vision of Krishna. Krishna is described in the Bhagavatam as dravyāṇ, consciousness that is inclusive of everything. If we thus separate things from Krishna in this way, don't we risk developing a vision that things are separate from God, the basic illusion at the foundation of material enjoyment? In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Krishna is generally defined as just his personality and expansions, but as a commentary of Nectar of Devotion, Prabhupada explains that Krishna also means his parts and parcels and his different energies. So why can't a devotee in the proper consciousness love everyone as part of Krishna? And isn't genuine affection for people a part of bhakti, when affection is actually our duty or service for Krishna? Would a mother be a better devotee if she only loved Krishna and just dutifully served her children without affection because she wanted to transcend it? That seems absurd. Her natural affection is part of her service. Can't that affection then be called love, especially if she sees her child as belonging to God and her service to love or care for the child? Is it illusion to have genuine friendship in Krishna consciousness, even though we are not yet liberated? And if not, what do we call such affection? Is it not a type of love? Certainly love for Krishna can't mean only directing our devotion at the deity and withdrawing our affection from everyone else. The argument can even be taken further by stating that a theistic conception is not even an absolute requisite for love. If our dharma, our intrinsic quality is to serve, then does sincere affection in some way reflect the soul, regardless of one's belief? And if so, how can we possibly argue that there is no love in the material world? Synthesis. The next day, okay, there's 3 or 4 more paragraphs, but I think it's interesting. Generally, I don't like to read, but the next day during Jai Jagannath clarified his point. He said the distinction he wanted. What? Can you hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you.
The next day during class, Jai Jagannath clarified his point. He said the distinction he wanted to make was distinguishing bhakti as love with a capital L, and love in this world is love with a lower class L. I think the synthesis rests there. I think confusion initially with the presentation was that this distinction wasn't made more clearly. That yes, bhakti is for Krishna, but that doesn't mean that love does not exist, even if it is not bhakti. A good definition of love will help further clarify this point. Quote, unselfish, loyal, and benevolent concern for the good of one another, end quote. In this sense, certainly people do have love and even sacrifice their love for others, even at times for strangers who have no bodily connection to them. I thus think it is a mistake to equate that all exchanges of love in this world are purely based on ego or abject self-interest. For if we do, we also lose the ability to distinguish even benevolence from cruelty, even in the face of great examples of altruism or sincere benevolent relationships. In other words, the distinction that bhakti is the topmost love, as described by great teachers such as Narada and others, does not negate that there is love in this material world. Rather, it proves it. For by deeming bhakti as the pinnacle of love, it also acknowledges a spectrum of love before that. Furthermore, if we deny the existence of such love in the world, we fall at a loss to explain on what basis the Bhagavatam expects us to at least have preliminary frame of reference to understand and appreciate the descriptions of love between Krishna and his devotees. There's a point that in the Bhagavatam too, that we won't even understand Krishna's love if we don't understand love here. We have no frame of reference for what it is. Of course, it is not that all affectionate relationships in this world are love. Perhaps even most of what we see today, especially in romance, are just selfish relationships that people enter in the name of love only. That doesn't discount, however, that we do have the capacity, even while still impure and bound in this world, to have sincere love and concern for others. I just heard a story about Prabhupada that synthesizes this point quite neatly. Quote, Srila Prabhupada was sitting outside on the grass speaking to a group of devotees at New Vrindavan. In front of him was some baby kittens playing and wrestling in front of him, and he was just watching them. Suddenly he commented, "You see, there is love in this material world." He paused and then added that although there is concern and benevolence in this world, it will never be enough to satisfy the soul, just as someone in the desert cannot be satisfied with a few drops of water, end quote, end quote. In conclusion, love is a general loyalty and affection in relationship and exists in this world, but only when that affection is extended to the Supreme Lord is it bhakti and fully universal. But bhakti can also be extended to others when we see them and serve them connected to the divine. Therefore, it is important for all devotees to understand and meditate how they can connect their relationships to Krishna. So it's kind of it's kind of edifying to me too that now when anybody asks a question, I've actually have already written something on it. So that's kind of fun. Okay, Gail.
Yeah, that was fascinating, Maharaj.
It was.
April 1721, right?
Yeah. No, April 7, 1917. I think it's April 19, 2017. Oh, I'll just find it right now.
Yeah.
April 21st, 2017.
4/21/17. Okay.
Yeah, that's what's edifying. I find this all the time. Someone's asked a question, and I've written about it. Anyone else like to say hello now?
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hey.
Thanks so much for the class.
Always great to see you.
Thank you.
My friend Jan's an interesting person, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's a lawyer. He's a Jewish lawyer.
Yeah. And he does see things a little different, maybe.
But yeah. No, but I like your input because to get it really what it is, what the standard is, it's great. Okay, Agbo, nice to see you. Great, you look very satisfied sitting among your books. Okay, anybody else like to say hello?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, Tota Gopinath here. Great to see you.
Okay, great. That puja we had yesterday, that seva was great. Wonderful.
Hare Krishna.
Anybody else there? Say hello. I know everybody's there.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Okay.
I'm Bṛhad. Thank you for class.
Okay, Haribo. Nice to see you. Say Krishna. Okay, Haribo. What fun yesterday, right? Okay, Krishna-namrita, Haribo, you wanted to say hello?
Hare Krishna, Maharaj, thank you so much for the class. I can only admire how citizens of Vrindavan love Krishna, and you express this in such a wonderful way. Thank you.
It's amazing, right? Yeah. Okay. Anybody else say hello?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, it's Yvette. Thank you so much for class.
Haribo, nice to see you at Rath Yatra serving.
Yeah,
It's great.
it's great.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else say
I'll see
hello?
you soon.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you for class. It's Gopi Gita.
Haribo, Gopi, nice to see you. Hare Krishna. Good. Anybody else say hello?
Hare Krishna, Gurudev. Yavat Sundari.
Okay, good. From Tehran, I see.
Yes, still I'm in Tehran, yeah.
Okay, Haribo. Anybody
Thank
else?
you very much, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, it's Kelly Nikunja. Thank you for class.
Okay, from St. Petersburg.
Yes.
Haribo. Okay, Haribo. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, this is Hemala Tarada.
Shankishore Maharaj, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for such a wonderful class.
Did you like those pictures of Murti?
Definitely, Maharaj, I love them. She sent them to me, I think the next day.
Yeah. Oh, when she saw me, she said, "Oh, I love Hemalatarada and Shyam Kishore so much." That's what she told me.
She's so sweet.
She has so much. Yeah. Whenever you go to Argentina, Buenos Aires, if you at least some of the times to visit her is so nice. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. We try to see her every time we go.
Oh, she's so sweet. She has so much love in her heart for Prabhupada and for Krishna.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. I'm looking down the list. I'm seeing all the people that are there and thanking everyone. Okay, everyone for coming. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu bheva cha patitanam